Welcome to episode 3 of At Ray's Table. Today at the table sits someone whose life has stretched across extremes in a way that almost feels mythic. Karl Palin grew up in Greater Western Sydney, left school early and carved out a fiercely successful path in the world of IT. Microsoft systems, Citrix administration, project management for private enterprise and as well as the New South Wales government. At the very same time, he was pushing his physical limits as an amateur powerlifter, obstacle course racer, long distance runner and cyclist. His life was full, fast and high performing from every angle. And then, as it often does for many of us, the body and mind called time. By his 30s, depression, anxiety and cycles of drug and alcohol had taken their toll, and what was once momentum became a kind of reckoning. And that's where yoga entered, quietly, almost like a hand on the shoulder. In 2012, he felt the first threads of relief and followed them, and by 2015, he was a certified teacher. A decade later, he has accumulated over 750 hours of training and more than 10,000 hours of teaching, facilitating 200-hour yoga teacher training and mentoring yoga teachers, offering a depth of experience that can only come from lived transformation, not theory. Karl's story is one of collapse giving way to clarity and of a man who rebuilt himself not through force but through presence. Today we get to explore that journey, the edges, the turning points and the tenderness beneath the grit. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. You made me want to have me crying straight off the bat. As I think over those words that you've just spoken.
It's a real privilege to have you here. And for me, the guests that I asked to come on the podcast are carefully curated. Mm-hmm. You have been a big part of my journey, and that may have only been in the last few years, but there's been a lot of depth I've discovered through my own practice, myself personally, and as a person who offers teachings in the world through our relationships. So welcome to the podcast. I'm really, really thrilled to have you here.
I feel grateful to be here, and I feel grateful to be seen by you, because I see you, Raywin, as a woman who's very much living her purpose and her path and doing amazing things in the world. It's nice to be seen and to be reflected in a way.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
I'd love to start by, there's so much, we could dive into so much straight away, but I think what would be nice is that I'm mindful some of the people in my community may not know who you are and what you do, so
sure.
Maybe you could share a little bit about that.
Okay, great. I found yoga in 2012. I founded One Big Heart in 2017. Of course, there was a lot that transpired in between those two time frames. Yoga was something that I pushed back on quite a bit when in the early days. I didn't go to yoga because I thought it was for girls. Yeah, and I was a powerlifter.
Yeah.
So that didn't really align with me as far as I could see. You touched on depression and anxiety. I was diagnosed. And I was medicated. So to get around that, because they didn't work, the meds didn't work, so I threw them in the bin. I formed a very healthy relationship with the gym.
Yeah.
Did wonderful things for me. As you mentioned, competitive fitness was great. It really gave me a new outlook on life. It gave me confidence. It also had my ego spiral really high. The drug and alcohol problems that you mentioned, that my 20s were just filled with it. If it wasn't a festival this weekend, it was a pub or a club it was every weekend, and it was non-stop. So the gym fueled that part of me.
Yeah.
I love to go out in summer at a festival and rip my shirt off and just, be out there in the sun and out of it.
Yeah.
I started yoga because of injuries.
Yeah, okay.
That's why I said yes, because I in my mind, I needed to keep training like I'm training so that I could avoid my depression. Burnout was what happened for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a lot more about your yoga journey, but it's definitely a common thread in our lives is that, and I think more and more people I speak to is this coming up against the world in a way that doesn't align with us, but doing it anyway and pushing through that and getting to a point where eventually you go, I'm done, I can't do it anymore. I'd like to understand a little bit more about what it was that got you to that point of burnout, do you think?
Sure. I see this a lot in our students, right? We all have varying levels of pain, thresholds. And sometimes we break a pain threshold and we keep going, and we break another one and we keep going. You never know which one's going to be the final straw, I suppose. But I see that as humans, we need to come up against it often enough and be and land in a deep level of sufferance to finally go, that's it. I refuse to live like this anymore.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for me, like I said, burnout hit. I didn't want to go to work anymore.
Yeah.
Every morning I would wake up and be like, I don't want to be there, right? And so when they offered a free yoga thing at work, yeah, straight up, I'm in there because I'm injured, can't train properly. I don't want to be at work anyway. You know, there's probably going to be a bunch of the hot chicks from the building there.
Yeah.
Because I was New South Wales government. There's 1,000 people in our building.
Yeah.
Right. So this is my mindset back then. Yes. Buff fitness guy in his late 20s. You know, didn't have a partner, and so yeah, I said yes for sure. Let's check it out. And the result of that was the transformation, because it made me feel so good. It made me feel so good. I started to think about myself differently, and I started to act and do life differently. Because really, I didn't like rolling into work on Mondays and Tuesdays every week feeling like I felt. I hated that. But I was trapped in this cycle. I felt like I couldn't escape. But as soon as I started to feel better about myself, and I started to make different decisions, and this flow-on effect happened. The more I did it, the better I felt. And what I realized was that all of my problems only exist in my head. Because nothing around me changed. I still worked at the same place. I still did this training. Life stayed the same, but all of a sudden it started to feel so much more joy and ease and freedom and happiness.
There's a teaching that I was once privy to, where there is, and I'm sure I'm going to get this a little wrong, but there is a student with his teacher looking at a pond of koi fish.
Mm-hmm.
And there are 7 fish in the pond. And the teacher says to the student, how many fish do you see? And so the student says 7. Correct. And how many ponds do you see? And the student says 1. And the teacher says incorrect. There are 7 ponds. And it's that kind of thing I think about when you give that, is that sometimes we expect with transformation that everything around us changes too. And often it's not the external change, it's the internal change that transforms our experience of life.
For sure.
Yeah.
My teacher, Duncan, had a statement that he said to me in teacher training, and even in the teacher training part, by that stage, I've been practicing for 2 years or something by the time I went to teacher training. You know, there was still a lot of learnings to be had. And Duncan said, your external world is a complete and utter reflection of your internal world. I was like, mate, that's bullshit. You know, if this is a shit scenario, this is a shit scenario, you know. But now that I look back on it further over time with more practice and more, you know, reconfiguration of the way that my brain patterns work, I see it all. Yeah.
At what point did you decide that yoga was a path you wanted to pursue, potentially as a career or as a way to make money and live your purpose in the world?
So, you know, as when this when this burnout hit and I stopped wanting to go to work, well, for a while, yoga fixed that. But actually, it became like the more yoga I did, the more I slipped back into this place of like, I don't want to be in this office environment. I don't feel like I'm living a life of purpose. I have always been a very outdoorsy guy, great with my hands. You know, really, all things considered, I had a pretty on and off relationship with my IT career. There'd be years where I'd be like, that's it. I'm out. I'm away. I'm off this desk. Like, and I'd go and work as a brickies labourer for like 12 months. I just needed that stuff, right? So in my mind, I started thinking like, I need to get out of here. What could I do? What do I love? You know, like I said, bush, camping, trails. Or I started to think, you know, maybe I go talk to my mate who has an adventure company and sort of move down that route, like tour guide, something like that. Fitness was massive for me, but I didn't really have an interest in being a PT or anything like that. The universe just handed it to me on a silver platter. I got certified in September 2015, and January 2016 I was made redundant from my government position. And I was like, that is it. I know exactly where I'm going. You know, prior to that, when I thought about being a yoga teacher, I couldn't logically construct how I would replace my current salary by being a yoga teacher. But being able to open a studio made complete sense to me.
Yeah.
Camden didn't have one, and the people of Camden needed one. You know, there's this moment driving home after my first 4 days of teacher training, which, like I said, was 2015. In the car, I had this massive awakening because I wasn't doing training to be a teacher. I was doing training so I could understand the practice more. But from day one, we started teaching people. So I've just spent 4 days not knowing anything to actually being able to teach a sun salutation A and have another person do that. And so in the car, this awakening moment happened where I realized I have the tools to help someone remove themselves from a mundane, ordinary, habitual existence like I had been living. And so, you know, I realized in that moment I have a duty to do this somehow. I don't know how, I don't know what it looks like. I just figured I would keep my IT job and just teach some yoga on the side.
Yeah, which I think many people do, right?
Yeah,
and then
sure.
Something happens. I always find if we can listen closely enough, the universe kind of will provide an opportunity for you to see that actually there's a path forward with something, or it requires more or demands you to be the person that you want to be in the world and presents those opportunities.
Yep.
I know the story about how One Big Heart Camden came to be, but I'd love you to share a little bit more about this incredible little sanctuary that I've fallen in love with, and many other students I know have fallen in love with too. How did it come to be?
Okay. It was, like I said, they made me redundant. They went, here's a bunch of money. Can you leave now? And I said, yes. And I was sitting there scratching my head like there's all these other people who had been there for years and years and years longer than me that were saying, oh shit, I hope they don't give me the redundancy. It's like, what, you know, that was mind blowing. Anyway, I decided, but I was going to open a studio underneath the brand of the guys who I did my training with, which was Power Living Australia. Big, massive shout out to Power Living. I love who they are and what they do. And so I decided to take a 12-month sabbatical. I had some other things that I did on the side that could keep me some money. I taught in gyms, I taught in dance studios, I taught in country clubs, and I started some of my own classes inside community halls that I would lease from the council. So working towards then trying to open a power living studio, the narrative changed along the way for them, where they flipped from, we really want you, and you need to be the guy in Camden to do this, to we're just actually taking a bit of a side look on just where business is and what's happening at the moment, and you need to tell us whether this is really important to you and this is where you're going. Well, okay. Meanwhile, I was doing more training, and I was in Sri Lanka on my yin training with power living, and it was probably about day 3 where I came out of my morning meditation, and rather than journaling, I wrote the name and drew the logo for the studio in my journal book. I decided, it came to me, download in that meditation, like, it's got to be all me. It's going to be all me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then interestingly, things happen real quick from there. So now we're talking about September 2016. So 12 months after I've been certified. It's pretty much exactly 12 months after I've been certified. Got home, opened up realestate.com, found the place, started conversations, signed some contracts in like November, picked up the keys for the studio on Australia Day 2017, and opened 3 weeks later.
Wow.
From a concrete box, me and my bros got in there, did all the construction, and opened. Yeah.
Amazing.
We opened with 15 members signed on, I think.
Wow.
Break even back then was like 97 members or something. But I negotiated some good terms to kick us off, and yeah.
So you've lived then through, as a studio owner, through COVID.
Absolutely.
You've lived through, in our area, if people are not from this area, there were serious fires, we've had floods, we've had lots that happened in the lead up to COVID, and then obviously COVID and the ramifications of COVID afterwards. How long has the studio been open now?
9 years in Feb.
And why do you think, or what is the enduring thing that has the doors stay open and such a thriving community still present?
My commitment to the cause. No one and nothing will ever take this away from me, and COVID sealed that in my mind. When I opened up the news to see that I've got to shut my doors, it drove spike right through me, and actually I got really angry in that moment, and I used that to fuel my invigoration and work my magic.
Yeah.
I have a firm belief that people need what we have to offer.
Yeah.
The people have proven that they need what I have to offer. There's many lives out there that one big heart's saved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think that, what did I want to say? Something I was going to go with. So I'm mindful that what happens, I'm going to wait a second until you drink, and I'm going to take that away from you again. Because I notice when you get passionate, you like to move that bottle around.
Okay. It's out there.
Yeah.
It's out there.
Okay, so one of the things I notice in the world of yoga is the evolution of the practice and what the practice can appear to be, or how it is presented, particularly through, in this modern world, social media.
Yeah.
And it's a big conversation in the yoga world
Sure.
currently. You and I'm very fortunate to sit on the teacher training panel that supports you in delivering your 200-hour teacher training.
I'm very fortunate that you sit on that panel.
Thank you.
You provide something that I can't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I know that one of the reasons why I feel so passionate about being involved in this with you is because I feel that One Big Heart really delivers what I believe to be an authentic version of modern yoga, which not only looks at yoga asana the physical postures and how they can support our health and well-being and our physical fitness and well-being and vitality and prana, but also the original roots of yoga and what yoga is and what it is not. And I'm interested to understand from you one of the things, or maybe there's more than one thing, that you think is misrepresented in the world of yoga, or a misconception people might have of yoga that prevents them from even trying it on as a way of supporting their health and well-being.
Sure. Yeah, great question. Firstly, props to my early teachers, Amanda and from Illuminate Yoga and the team from Powerlifting. Like, if they hadn't shown me philosophy the way that they shown me, I maybe I never engaged. Hit me with the question again.
So I'm keen to understand what a misconception might be from someone who has heard of yoga.
Great.
That would have them stop them from coming into the
Sure.
space.
There's heaps. There's heaps. And they're all really simple and, without offense to anybody, they're all really silly.
Yeah.
They are really silly.
Yeah.
So examples would be, I can't touch my toes, so I can't do yoga.
Yeah, I hear it all the time too.
Right. Which is like saying, oh, if I can't pick up the 100-kilo barbell, then I'm not going to walk into the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I did a podcast. Not a podcast. We're doing a podcast. I did a reel on it the other day. It's like saying I'm too dirty to have a bath.
I did see this one.
Yeah.
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 Love it.
This is an interesting one that leans more towards the young people. Young people think that yoga's just for old people. Young people definitely misunderstand, or maybe have never been introduced to the idea of power yoga, which, as vinyasa teachers, is basically what we're delivering. Yeah, that's a huge one for the young people. And this is also very interesting because we're out here in Greater Western Sydney, right? If you go to eastern suburbs, Bondi, etc., 90% of the students in there are under the age of 30. Whereas out here, 10% of our students are under the age of 30. They gotten onto the idea in there a while back that the younger generation out here has missed. What are some of the ones that you see?
So I see a lot around body image, and I think that comes up because of the kind of people I teach and because of my own personal stories around body image and struggle there too. But I hear a lot, I don't have a yoga body, or I don't look good in tights, or, I'm worried about what people will think of me when they see me practicing.
Sure.
And I always remind them that most people are only worried about themselves in a yoga practice and not looking at anyone else in the studio.
They ain't got time to worry about you. Sorry, sweetheart. They haven't. They're all worried about all their own shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I also find that a big thing that can become a barrier is even a lack of understanding of what yoga actually is. And that's kind of where I want to go to next is if you were to talk me through, from your perspective, you being that fish in the pond and this is your pond, what is yoga?
Well, I was, if we want to get traditional, I was reminded on our teach training this year by yourself that the purpose of yoga is to relieve life's sufferance. Yoga is... the way I define yoga is that yoga is a system. Yoga is a system and a process to help us manage our mind and our body. And I mean, mostly even just to manage our mind. And everything else flows on from there. If you can manage your mind, like I said, when I started and I started to feel really good, I started to change what I was putting in my body, who I was hanging out with, what I was doing, where I was going. And so it is a system to help us manage our minds that then has a series of untold benefits. Like, firstly, physical, strength, stability, range of movement, flexibility, and which then, you know, flows on into increased immune system. I kind of feel like a bit of a, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Like I kind of feel like I'm making shit up when I say this, but for me, yoga is the pill to solve everything. Everything. And people find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
But when we look at people who come into the studio, you know, I solve things like plantar fasciitis and physical stuff from plantar fasciitis to ruptured discs to then other autoimmune disorders, you know. People who practice yoga with us who suffer, say, osteoporosis, etc., their symptoms reduced by like 90%. Of course, you're never going to turn something like that off. Fibromyalgia, all these kind of autoimmune things that people, that the Western medical system can't provide a pill for or a solution for. Yoga like nails it because it's nervous system management.
And I think that's a big thing because people hear yoga and think downward dogging is going to fix my fibromyalgia, right? And that doesn't feel
no, it doesn't line
like
up.
a conversation.
No. So you can't just lead with that.
No.
No.
But I think, you know, it's funny because I sat with Myra Lewin, who is the founder of Hale Pule, which is she's an Ayurvedic teacher, practitioner, yoga teacher, trainer.
Yep.
And recently sat with her and we were talking about the 6 stages of disease through the lens of Ayurveda.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the interesting things that she spoke about, and it's just such a common thread, is when we do something and the body has a negative response to the action we've taken, whether that's when I drink coconut water, even though it's healthy, it gives me gas and I ignore that, or whether it's when I go to the gym and lift those heavy weights, I can't walk properly for the next 2 weeks and my back hurts. It's the when we ignore that creates the disconnect and then manifests disease in the body. Right?
Agreed, yes.
And I think that it's easy for us to get stuck here where we think downward dog will fix this problem. It's not the downward dogging, it's the process of yoga in tuning back into ourselves and listening and becoming acutely aware now of how the world rubs up against us and what feels good and what doesn't and what aligns and what doesn't. And in that process of listening and eliminating, we then start to discover that we've always been in charge of our own health and well-being and we can take the reins again. And I think that's really powerful teaching in the practice of yoga.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And people have been conditioned to think that that things only do one thing. As an example, if you want big muscles, you lift the weights. But specifically, if you want big legs, you do the cycling. If you want strong shoulders, you do the swimming. If you want a strong core, you do the Pilates. Right? If you want to be able to woo a girl on the dance floor, you go to do the dancing lessons. Yeah. There's all of these other things are performance-based systems, whereas yoga is an experience with your body where the inner learnings start to happen. All of a sudden, you don't have to be told by someone else whether you feel good or not, or whether you should feel good or not. As we clear the nervous system and as we shift our hormone production, we make space within the mind where new neural pathways can fire. You go and look at the studies of yoga and meditation. It's all there now. It's a great time to be alive as a yoga teacher. It's all there. The proof on meditation, etc. And then I suppose that takes us to another area as well. People don't realize how multifaceted yoga is. We got breathwork facilitators out there who don't know that breathwork originated from yoga.
Yeah.
And they're out there earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on all the breathworks that they do, and then they don't understand that breathwork came from yoga, man. It didn't come from that guy down the road that gave it this weird name, and you did a course with them. People don't realize that. I talk to people on the phone a lot. And what do you want the practice to do for you? Is the first question I ask everybody. And they say, they give me some stuff, and then they sometimes they'll go, yeah, and I meditate too. And I'll say to them, so you're already doing the yoga? No, 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 no. I do this and this and this and this, and I meditate.
Yeah.
Whereas we know from the inside, meditation is the pinnacle.
Yeah.
It's all there to get us
Yeah.
to that diamond body.
So I
long
guess
periods of sitting.
For anyone who's sitting here listening to the podcast thinking, well, I don't even know if I can make a downward dog in my body. The message here is the downward dog isn't the point.
No. No.
What is the point of yoga?
The way I define it is, and this is how I define my personal purpose, in fact, because this is what yoga did for me. Yoga helps people find joy, ease, and genuine gratitude for life. And I'm a yoga teacher so that I can help people find joy, ease, and genuine gratitude for life.
I love that.
Yeah, I was having a real hard time a few years back, and I realized I haven't been on my mat in X amount of time. I went to a class, come out of there just so invigorated, full of life, at ease, in the car on the way home. I'm like, well, how do I describe this feeling in my body? And that was it. Joy, ease, and genuine gratitude. Those two things come together for me when I practice. And then the more frequent that we do that, the more the program is instilled within the body so that you can have sometimes extended periods away and it doesn't drop off.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a perfect segue into where I'd like to go next. So one of the things that we talk about a little bit on this podcast is dinacharya, so daily ritual, because it doesn't matter what industry you're in, whether you're holding space for others in the health and wellbeing industry or whether you're an individual working in the IT industry. How we care for ourselves daily is how we allow ourselves to show up and be potent in the world. And I'm keen to understand what your daily rituals are for self-care, and do they vary? Are there things that are seasonal? Are there things that are non-negotiables that happen the same every day?
I've got a handful of non-negotiables that happen every day. So first thing in the morning is breath work and some yoga poses in the shower for me. Just one yoga pose, in fact, and breath work to spark my day. So that's one. My other non-negotiable is training in the gym. That's a 4 to 5 times a week for me. And my what I would say biggest and best non-negotiable is breathwork and meditation throughout the day. The power that our breath holds when used appropriately is out of this world in terms of regulating and coming to spaces of clarity. So I will, I stop and breathe and meditate multiple times throughout the day. Then it's just short. Sometimes they're as short as 1 minute in between a set in the gym. In fact, that happens between every single set in the gym. In that meditation, I use visualization and I use breath work. Yeah,
It's great.
There's the 3 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are there any things that you do seasonally to support your health and well-being, or other self-care practices that you think are really important?
Sure. Seasonally, I've just actually reintroduced it this last week. Cold showers. Amazing at resetting nervous system, changing hormone production, heightening immune system, and summer's a great time to start that. And if you can keep it going into the winter, great, right?
Yeah.
And then at some time,
Tapers off.
Yeah, taper off, and then it's hard to restart in the winter. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So that's I'd call that a seasonal one.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, morning walks are amazing. So I do 2 different kinds of morning walks. On the days where I teach yoga, which I'm getting up at 4:30, I'll do just a 15-minute walk, and again, breath work whilst walking and techniques on clearing my mind. I walk barefoot just around nature. It's like a 1 kilometer little loop just around my house. That's one walk that I do a few times a week, and the other one is walking the dog on a longer, 45-minute sort of 5K walk maybe. I dip in and out of my other things. Like I said, I'm outdoors, right? So I dip in and out of running. I dip in and out of mountain biking. I dip in and out of wakeboarding and surfing. We're moving back into the warm weather again, so wakeboarding will definitely come up for me. And in fact, winter is generally when I surf. Yeah, waves are better.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I grew up cold water as well.
And the cold water.
I love
the
cold water.
A wetsuit on and getting in the cold water is it's great.
Yeah, I grew up as part of the Bondi icebergs. So.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, love that very much. Love that.
Mm.
So we talked a little bit about how pursuing this path initially came from a place of inner transformation. But then you also were talking about how one of your teachers had said, the inner world or inner landscape then starts to shift what the outer world feels like and is experienced.
Absolutely.
Too. And so you have this beautiful studio in Camden.
Yep.
But I'm keen to hear what other things you're involved in that have also transformed and transpired in this time you followed this path. I know that there's more that you do beyond just what your work inside the studio.
Absolutely. There's 2 other main things that I do. I work heavily in the men's space, and I also am a custodian and a supporter of a charity. So we'll touch on the charity first. The charity is Talk to Me Bro. Talk to Me Bro was founded in 2018 out of loss, and it is a suicide prevention charity. Their mission is to bring suicide to zero in Australia. There was a period where it was focused mainly around men, hence the name, Talk to Me Bro. But as the charity developed, what they realised is the flow-on effects of men's mental health onto family, women, children, etc. So now it for the last few years, it's been all inclusive, even though it remains under the name of Talk to Me Bro. So I'm a custodian for them. Which a custodian is a person who's been through formal induction training and provides support mechanisms for people in need. I facilitate their community catch-ups. Community catch-ups are for men and women, where we do breathwork, ice baths, and connection in a sense of people having space to talk and share their current experience of life without someone trying to coach or teach or train in any way. Just listen. The second thing that I do for Talk to Me Bro is I facilitate their conscious connection workshops. They're held quarterly. They're a paid event. So community catch-ups are free. Happen in the Camden area every month. Generally from Oran Park Reserve Community Hall. And conscious connection sort of moves around. This year in 2020, moving into 2026, I'll be moving into co-facilitation of retreats for them, and Camden is their newest, Macarthur is their newest hub for Talk to Me Bro. So their primary hubs were Newcastle and Wollongong, and the Macarthur hub officially launched at the end of 2024. So one thing that we're currently missing from the structure of what the other hubs do is the weekly ice bath catch-ups. And when weekly ice baths happen, they are segregated. There's men, there's a men's one and there's a women's one. So that's coming onto the schedule in 2026.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love Talk to Me Bro as an organisation and have had a few touch points with them. Keen to understand what brought you to them as an organisation, or why Talk to Me Bro?
Sure. My personal journey with suicide started in 2011. It was a Christmas period, and me and my best mate, who I lived with at the time, were first on the scene to one of our mates who lived a few doors up, who'd taken his life. And when I say first on the scene, it was within 5-ish minutes. And so he chosen to use a rope. We took him off that and did what we could till the ambulance got there. Toz never made it out of hospital. So that sent a shockwave through my life. Toz and I were pretty close. We see each other almost every day. The street back then was filled with a bunch of bros who all hung out very regularly. So yeah, it took us all by absolute surprise. And so the need for people to understand to have tools and techniques that can save their lives is important.
Absolutely.
Extremely important, and it's very important to me.
Yeah, that's amazing work that you guys do. It really is. I want to talk a little bit about what made you decide, from yoga studio owner, yoga teacher, to take on the incredibly impactful, but also, I'm thinking the right word here, full role of mentoring teachers and training teachers. So obviously came a point where the work that you're doing, what I know about you is you live by intention, right? Like when I think of you, I think of someone who lives intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
And so something's happened at some point where you're doing this incredible work through the studio, you're spending your time working for Talk to Me Bro, and I know there are some other things that you've done along those lines as well to support community connection and to really reach beyond the walls of the studio.
Yep.
What happened that made you go, okay, I'm ready to now shift other people's lives and allow an opportunity for them to experience what it's like to teach yoga and create that through the studio?
Yeah. That mission is twofold. There's the very personal aspect of it, and there's the business aspect of it. So let's touch on the personal aspect of it first. Just like every industry, there's people who are exceptional in their delivery, and there's people who are below par in their delivery. You can get a good plumber, you can get a bad plumber, you can get a good mechanic, you can get a bad mechanic. Unfortunately, you can get a good yoga teacher and you can get a subpar yoga teacher that might not have necessarily had the appropriate level of training to spark that transformation in another human. And if I'm not part of the solution, I'm part of the problem. So if the solution of yoga is to help people lift themselves out of potentially a mundane existence, repetitive, problematic, like I was used to living, where I could have gone down the route that Toz went down. If I'm not part of that solution to the fullest degree, then I'm part of the problem. And so for me, it's imperative that we have highly skilled, highly trained yoga teachers further out here in Greater Western Sydney, because there is a bit of a disconnect. My experience through yoga has led me to all sorts of places. Firstly doing my doing my training in at Bondi, I've met and trained with and practiced with the most amazing teachers in the world. When I got certified myself, I put myself through the challenge of practicing for 12 months with only teachers who I struggled to resonate with, so that I could see what was missing, so that I could teach myself what not to do was a big thing. And then, grasp a full understanding of what's missing. Why is that experience leaving me without these beautiful, euphoric, joyous experiences that other teachers have given me? So I feel a duty to the practice of yoga, to keep leveling up teachers and give them the right tools from the start, and get them curious, and have them with a great level of knowledge, but also wanting more. Understanding first and foremost that yoga is self-study.
I love that.
Yeah. Self-study, and then therefore continual improvement.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it. If I'm not part of the solution, I'm part of the problem. And I hate knowing, and I hear this from time to time. Yeah, I tried yoga once before. It was shit, and I never went back.
I've heard it too.
I can do something about that.
Yeah.
I can do something about that.
Yeah.
Potentially, any student who's landing in front of us as teachers is coming because they're on that edge, like Toz was, right?
Yeah.
So there's that aspect. The business side of things, my plans are huge for One Big Heart.
Would you like to share that with us? One of the things I love, I remember sitting down with Karl, I reckon it was just over a year ago. We were having a coffee in Camden, and he was sharing his vision about access to these teachings for this part of Sydney. And that he was so passionate that everyone should be able to tap into this. And I think about, if you're not a yogi and you're listening to this might sound like another language, but, even the Yoga Sutras written by Patanjali, the intention was to make this knowledge accessible.
Absolutely.
And it's something I will always be a cheerleader for with you, because it's something that I see you're super passionate about, and that, you open your doors and welcome everybody. But what is coming? Is there anything you'd like to share? Are you allowed to share anything?
I mean, I have a business mission of expanding to 5 studios by the time we get to 2030.
Amazing.
There's some initial conversations happening at the moment out in Penrith.
Amazing.
So stay tuned on that.
Very exciting. And there's also other stuff that you do that's part of the studio, but again is a way that I feel you're really opening and creating access to yoga beyond the 4 walls. You run OBH Tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, One Big Heart Tribe's cool. It's a cool project for community connection. And in fact, I don't run it at all. And that's the whole point. So One Big OBH Tribe is the community project that's run by members, for members and friends and family, where they host sometimes fortnightly, sometimes monthly, free events that go beyond the scope of general yoga. They're more about connection and sharing than anything else, because I realised the power of that through the Talk to Me Bro work that I do. So a tribe event could look like a walk along Camden Bike Track with some coffees. A tribe event could look like a games night in the studio, which is stupendously hilarious. A tribe event could look like a meditation in the park, or a sound healing in the park, or a breath work in the park. So sometimes they're very much yoga aligned, but there's the one criteria is that they're always free. in terms of there's no financial exchange between participants and One Big Heart. There are some instances they're going to do, I'm really excited about this, and I'm actually going to go and do this one myself. They're doing a murder mystery night.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
So of course it needs to be financial exchange to the venue that's going to run that, but it's not a One Big Heart. We don't take profits from anything. So OBH Tribe is a super fun project that it breaks down the barriers. You know, we talked about misconceptions before. Misconceptions that I see out here are that if you do yoga, you're probably just a hippie who's, you know, spending time on your weekends growing your dreadlocks, you know, and maybe toking a bit of the reefer as well. That's what a lot of people think yoga is out here, right? And so it breaks down the barriers for people. If you can bring your friends and your family to a tribe event and hang out with a bunch of really cool people who are super fun and exciting, and there's actually no yoga involved, and then they go, oh, maybe they're not weirdo hippies. Oh, maybe I will try some yoga. So it provides people access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so you are in the process of almost wrapping your second round of TT, 200-hour TT for 2025.
Yes.
And you've got dates locked in for 2026 for the first round.
Absolutely. People are already signing on to 2026.
So when does this kick off?
First round 2026 is the 28th of Feb. Will
Amazing.
be the kickoff weekend. Yeah.
Awesome. And I'll drop all the details for that in the show notes for anyone that's
Love
interested.
that. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, there was something I wanted to ask you. Tell me.
In the background, I'm working on my next 2 trainings, which will be breathwork facilitation and meditation facilitation.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, they'll be the next 2 editions. And of course, for those of you out there who don't know, Raywin delivers 2 trainings a year from our studio.
Yeah.
Yin and Ayurvedic.
Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
So Ayurveda and the Subtle Body is going to be coming up in March 2026.
That's already 50% sold out, right?
Close to, yes.
Yeah.
Close to.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. And then Yin Teach training a little later in 2026, which is great.
Yeah.
But I think that it's exciting that there is a space for yoga teachers. You know, one of the things I also am mindful of is that coming out of a 200-hour teach training can be quite daunting. And so there is space that you create to mentor teachers as well. And
Absolutely.
One of the things I was quite taken by when I first started teaching at OBH as well is that, and when I say OBH, I mean One Big Heart Yoga Studio in Camden, is the amount of yoga teachers in the actual studio participating as students, which is always an incredible thing to see as well.
So wonderful to see.
Yeah.
I see a problem in the industry that was the moment teachers get certified, they stop practicing. And in order to remain in tune with yourself, regulate yourself, be inspired, stay curious, must always remain a student of the practice that inevitably change your life enough to make you want to go do teacher training. You can't walk away from that.
No.
It is great to see that that there's a handful of teachers out here that utilize your One Big Heart. Yeah.
It's amazing. So in the show notes, I'm going to drop all the details for One Big Heart Studio at Camden, but also Karl's Instagram so you can follow along. He drops great reels with some great tips and tricks around even the physical practice of yoga as well. Before we wrap today, I want to ask you a question that I ask all my guests at the end.
Sure.
And the question is, if you could place one piece of hard-earned wisdom in the hands of your younger self, or anyone listening who needs it, what would it be?
Nothing is as bad as what you make it out to be, and you'll always get through. In fact, all of the current challenges that are coming towards you in your life are the exact thing that you've secretly asked the universe to provide you so that you can go through the learning experience and level up to the person that you've always wanted to be.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yay! Well
Wow.
done. I'm going to say that first before I do anything, and then I'm coming to give you a hug. Hang on, wait. I don't want to lose
Save
that.
it,
Okay,
save
go,
it,
go,
save it.
go. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hmm.
You're such an epic human.
Thank you. So are you.
I feel very grateful to have you.
Mm.